Raise your hands. Get those hands up now. I'm not asking again. The harsh voice cut through the grocery store like a blade. Bright overhead lights bounced off the cold steel barrel, aimed straight at his heart. Marcus Williams found himself frozen between the breakfast, cereals, and dairy products, slowly lifting his arms as ordered, caught between disbelief and rage. I haven't done anything wrong, Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady even as his heart hammered against his ribs and adrenaline flooded his system. Officer, this is some kind of mistake. The young cop wearing the name tag, Tyler Rodriguez, had his chest puffed out. His face burned red, wound tight and ready to snap. The gun stayed pointed right at Marcus. Mistake? You think I'm stupid? Something's off about you. Everything you're doing looks sketchy. I know your type. Don't even try it with me. His words dripped with hatred and bias. You're skulking around like someone planning to rob the place. Rob the place? Marcus Williams, federal agent, getting accused of theft while staring down a gun barrel in some grocery store on a Saturday afternoon by this local cop who clearly had it out for him. The shame of it, this obvious power trip, hit Marcus so hard he could barely think straight. How did things spiral this fast? To get the full picture, we have to look at who this man really was before everything went sideways. The guy standing there with a weapon trained on him was federal agent Marcus Williams, 45 years old, seasoned FBI veteran who'd been fighting crime for 2 decades. He'd put in nearly 20 years with the Bureau, climbing the ladder and focusing on tough cases like organized crime and terrorism. Marcus wasn't the kind of black man that cops like Officer Rodriguez expected to see. He was sharp, experienced, well-regarded in federal circles, known for being professional, honest, and committed. Marcus didn't have it easy growing up. He came from a blue-collar area outside Riverside, Tennessee, the same town where this whole mess was happening. Riverside was small and mixed, but like everywhere else in America, prejudice still lived in the shadows and sometimes right out in the open. Marcus pushed himself relentlessly to rise above his situation, crush it in school, and finally land his dream job with the FBI. Coming back to work near his old neighborhood after years away felt incredible. During his FBI career, Marcus had gone head-to-head with the worst criminals imaginable, operated under crushing pressure, and always carried himself with dignity, control, and respect for justice. He'd witnessed humanity at its lowest, but never stopped believing in fairness in the system he had sworn to protect. He was someone who lived by facts, proof, and treating every person with equal respect. Getting treated like a dangerous criminal because of his skin color was a slap in the face that crushed everything he'd built. What made Marcus Williams' situation even more painful was his connection to Riverside Police Chief Rob Thompson. Marcus and Rob had been kids together in Riverside. Same schools, same basketball courts. Rob was Marcus's closest friend growing up. After high school, Marcus left for college and eventually the FBI, while Rob stuck around Riverside, joined local law enforcement, and worked his way up to chief. Even though their careers took them different directions and they spent years in separate cities, Marcus and Rob stayed close, meeting up when they could and keeping that strong friendship alive through respect and trust. Rob Thompson was a seasoned, level-headed chief who had Marcus's back, understanding exactly who Marcus was and everything he'd achieved. It was just another Saturday afternoon in Riverside. Marcus had wrapped up some personal business and swung by the neighborhood grocery store, Riverside Market, to grab a few things his wife had asked for. The place was packed at this time of day. Marcus, medium build with salt and pepper hair, wore everyday clothes, jeans, a button-down, and a lightweight jacket. He could have been any other middle-aged guy doing weekend shopping. He rolled his cart slowly down the aisles, hunting for what he needed. The cop working the grocery store beat was Officer Tyler Rodriguez. Rodriguez was young, maybe 24, who joined Riverside Police about 12 months back. He was hostile, green, and loaded with cockiness and attitude. Rodriguez came from across the state and carried some serious racial baggage with him. He looked at black people, especially ones who didn't fit his narrow view, as automatically suspect. He loved flexing his badge, particularly on people he figured wouldn't fight back. He was walking the grocery store mostly for show and to kill time. When Rodriguez walked past aisle 5, where Marcus had stopped to check the shelves, he locked on to Marcus, a middle-aged black guy in regular clothes. Nothing that would raise red flags for most people. But in Officer Rodriguez's twisted thinking, Marcus's appearance, his race, how he moved, or whatever his prejudices cooked up, was enough to seem suspicious. He wondered, what's this guy doing here? He doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Is he casing the place for a theft? He had no reports of stealing or any suspect description. He was running purely on his own bias and gut feelings. Rodriguez made his move toward Marcus. He marched right over, instantly hostile and confrontational, showing zero courtesy or basic respect. "Hey, you freeze right there," Rodriguez barked, his voice booming and rough. Marcus, who'd been checking out a cereal box, spun around, caught off guard. He spotted a young cop stomping toward him with a nasty scowl. He stopped his cart, trying to figure out what was happening. "Yes, officer. Is there a problem?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice calm and respectful. "What's your business here?" Rodriguez demanded. Talking like shopping was somehow illegal. He planted himself close to Marcus, eyes roaming up and down, sizing him up like prey. "I'm buying groceries," Marcus answered, confused by the attitude. "You look shady," Rodriguez said flat out, his voice loaded with disgust. "I've had my eye on you since you walked in. What are you doing lurking around here wasting time?" "I was just picking out cereal," Marcus said, fighting to stay cool. "I live in Riverside. I'm a resident here." "Don't feed me lies," Rodriguez snarled. He wasn't buying any of it. In his warped mind, his assumptions were already writing a different story. "You don't look like you belong in this area. Where are you really from?" "I already told you I live in Riverside," Marcus shot back, his voice getting an edge. His patience was running out fast. This was straight-up discrimination. "Show me your ID," Rodriguez demanded suddenly, his voice cracking with stress. He dropped his hand to his gun handle. "Why would I do that?" Marcus asked. He understood his rights perfectly. Cops couldn't just randomly demand identification without proper cause. "I haven't broken any laws. You've got no legitimate reason to ask for my ID and hassle me while I'm shopping." Marcus's composed, knowledgeable response and clear grasp of the law got completely twisted by Rodriguez. He took it as defiance, as pushback and proof that Marcus was hiding something. Rodriguez's face went crimson with rage, and his ego took a hit. "You're fighting a police officer," Rodriguez screamed, his voice cracking. "I've got every right to check out anyone who looks suspicious. And you definitely look suspicious, like you're about to bolt, or you're hiding something." He stepped in closer, the space between them shrinking dangerously. "I'm not fighting anything," Marcus said quietly, trying to stay in control even as adrenaline surged through him. As an FBI agent, he'd been trained for high-stress, dangerous moments. But getting treated like this by some local cop was a different beast entirely, mixing real physical threat with crushing personal insult. He stared into Rodriguez's eyes, trying to read what was going on. He saw panic, inexperience, arrogance, and worst of all, pure prejudice staring back. "Raise your hands. Get those hands up. I said get those hands up now," Rodriguez bellowed, his voice shaking with tension and bruised pride. He'd yanked his weapon from its holster, aiming it dead center at Marcus's chest. Marcus stood there in the middle of that grocery aisle facing Officer Tyler Rodriguez's gun, hearing the slurs and ridiculous biased accusations. His hands were up at shoulder level, showing he wasn't resisting. He could feel other shoppers staring at him. The shame was crushing. But underneath the fear and humiliation, ice-cold fury was building. Who did this guy think he was? What gave him the right to treat him like garbage just because of his race? In that moment of extreme pressure, Marcus, drawing on his FBI training, quickly sized up his options. Fighting back or trying to explain. Completely pointless with a racist cop like this. FBI credentials. He might freak out and pull the trigger. His best bet was to use a connection Rodriguez would never see coming, one that could shut this down instantly and make him pay. Rob. He had to reach Rob. With the calm that came from years of real danger, Marcus kept his hands raised, his voice steady but firm. "Officer," he said, making every word crystal clear, "I'm warning you, you're screwing up big time. You're pointing a gun at someone you know nothing about. I want to speak to your boss. I want to talk to the chief." Rodriguez laughed, his grin full of mockery. "The chief? Who do you think you are wanting to talk to the chief? You think that intimidates me? Who are you going to claim as your buddy?" He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "That's exactly right," Marcus said, his stare burning into Rodriguez. "I'm calling your chief, Chief Robert Thompson. He's a close friend of mine, and he's going to lose his mind when he finds out what you just did to me." Rodriguez's face, still burning red with anger and stress, shifted in an instant. Robert Thompson, Chief Rob Thompson, a close friend. He looked at Marcus, at his composed expression and steely eyes. Doubt, a flicker of fear started creeping in. He knew Chief Rob Thompson's reputation, a stand-up guy who valued loyalty. You're making that up. Rodriguez stuttered, but his voice had lost all its earlier swagger, replaced by panic. You think you can get away with lying like that? I'm not making anything up, Marcus said. He moved slowly, very slowly, dropping his right hand while keeping it where Rodriguez could see every movement. He carefully pulled his cell phone from his pocket. I'm calling him right now. You want to speak with him yourself? Rodriguez stood locked in place, weapon still raised and aimed at Marcus. But all his cockiness had vanished. He watched Marcus unlock his phone and scroll through his contacts. The terror in his eyes was spreading. He still couldn't quite believe it, but the chance that this might be real scared him senseless. Marcus found Rob's number and hit call. The phone started ringing. The tension in that grocery store aisle was suffocating. Rodriguez stood frozen, staring at Marcus and the phone in his hand. Hey, Marcus, what's going on? Chief Thompson's voice came through the speaker. Hey, Rob, Marcus said, his voice steady but tight with stress. I'm at Riverside Market in aisle 5 by the breakfast cereals. I've got a problem with one of your officers. A problem? Which officer? Chief Thompson's tone immediately turned serious. Officer Tyler Rodriguez, Marcus said, looking straight at Rodriguez, who was standing there looking like he'd seen a ghost. He stopped me, called me suspicious, threw insults at me, and now he's got a gun aimed at me, just for being a black man buying groceries. I told him I wanted to speak with you, but he thought I was bluffing. On the other end, Chief Thompson went quiet for several seconds. Then his voice came back, deep and filled with an icy rage that Marcus had rarely heard from his friend. Aimed a gun at you, just for shopping. Jesus Christ, Marcus. Stay exactly where you are. Don't move a muscle. I'm heading over there right now, this instant. Marcus ended the call. He slipped the phone back into his pocket, keeping his cool. He stared at Officer Tyler Rodriguez, who was standing there with his face drained of all color, sweat dripping down his forehead. He'd heard Marcus's entire conversation on speaker, or at least enough to realize it was the chief and Marcus was talking about him and the weapon. He'd aimed his gun at the chief's best friend, a black man he'd insulted and written off, who turned out to have a personal connection with the head of the department. You actually know the chief? Rodriguez stammered, his voice shaking like a leaf. I told you I did, Marcus replied, his voice ice cold. And he's coming. I think you are going to have a lot of explaining to do. Rodriguez's face showed pure terror. He understood the massive scope of his screw-up. His hands trembled as he slowly lowered the weapon, then started stumbling through an apology. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I had no idea. His apology wasn't about genuine regret, but panic about losing his job and facing consequences. About 5 minutes later, a patrol car with no sirens or flashing lights pulled up outside the store. Chief Robert Thompson got out. He was in regular clothes but carried himself like the authority he was. He scanned the entrance, looking for Marcus. When he spotted the situation in aisle 5, Marcus Williams, his best friend, standing there looking tense, and Officer Tyler Rodriguez across from him, pale as death with his gun still gripped in his hand, Chief Thompson's expression hardened with fury. Chief Thompson walked straight over. He went directly to Marcus, completely ignoring Rodriguez for the moment. Marcus, you all right? Did he hurt you? Chief Thompson's voice was full of concern for his friend. I'm okay, Rob, Marcus said. Just shaken up. He hasn't done anything except point that gun at me and throw around insults. Chief Thompson turned to face Tyler Rodriguez. His stare was cold, filled with anger and complete disgust. Rodriguez, Officer Rodriguez, what the hell are you doing standing there with a weapon drawn? What are you doing confronting Federal Agent Marcus Williams? Chief Thompson's voice boomed through the aisle. Federal agent? Rodriguez froze for a second time, if that was even possible. Worse than before. Not just the chief's best friend, an FBI agent. All his assumptions and prejudices crumbled. He realized exactly who he'd been dealing with. Agent. Federal agent? Rodriguez stammered, completely losing it. He looked at Chief Thompson, then at Marcus, then at the shaking gun in his grip. Chief, I don't know. I swear I don't know. You don't know? Chief Thompson cut him off, his voice dripping with disgust. You don't know, or you don't bother to know because you're operating on your own biases. You aimed a weapon at an innocent citizen, a friend of mine, a federal agent in the middle of a grocery store because you decided he looked suspicious. Chief Thompson moved closer to Rodriguez, his eyes unforgiving. Hand over your weapon, right now, carefully, then give me your badge and radio. Report to the station immediately, straight to my office. You're suspended effective immediately. Tyler Rodriguez shook as he followed the orders. He slowly lowered his gun and holstered it. His hands were trembling so badly he nearly dropped it. He removed his badge and radio and passed them to Chief Thompson. His face was soaked with sweat and tears were beginning to stream down his cheeks. Chief, I'm sorry, Agent Williams. I was completely wrong. Please forgive me. He kept begging, his voice pathetic and dripping with terror. Marcus Williams stared at him, unmoved. He didn't want this apology. This wasn't about realizing his racist actions were wrong. This was pure fear about losing his paycheck. Marcus's face stayed cold and filled with disgust. Chief Thompson motioned to other officers who'd shown up and escorted Rodriguez out. Rodriguez stumbled away like a broken man, mumbling apologies as they dragged him off. Once Rodriguez was gone, Chief Thompson turned back to Marcus. He let out a heavy sigh, looking exhausted and ashamed. Marcus, I'm incredibly sorry you went through this. I can't believe any cop working for me would pull something like that, especially against you. It's all right, Rob, Marcus said, though the sting of anger and humiliation still burned inside him. I'm okay. But Rob, you need to take a hard look at your hiring and training. If he had the guts to do this to me, someone he didn't know from Adam, what's he going to do to people who don't have my connections? Chief Thompson nodded grimly. I hear you loud and clear. I'm going to see this through completely. I won't stand for this garbage in my department. Not ever. Back at headquarters, Chief Thompson immediately ordered Internal Affairs to launch a full investigation into Officer Tyler Rodriguez's conduct. The IA chief, known for being fair and thorough, took the case personally. The investigation moved fast. They interviewed Marcus, who gave a precise, professional account of everything. Rodriguez's words, his racist comments, his threatening behavior, and the unjustified weapon draw. They interviewed Rodriguez. Panicked and desperate, he tried defending himself, claiming Marcus looked suspicious and that he felt threatened when Marcus reached for his phone, even though Marcus only grabbed it after Rodriguez had already drawn his weapon. He tried downplaying his insults, calling them heat-of-the-moment mistakes. His apologies were clearly just about saving his career. The smoking gun was security footage from Riverside Market. Multiple cameras caught the entire incident from different angles. Rodriguez's aggressive approach, the confrontation, his weapon draw against a calm, stationary Marcus, and his panicked reaction during the phone call. The video was undeniable proof of power abuse and excessive force. Store employees and customers who witnessed parts of the incident backed up the story, confirming Rodriguez started everything and acted aggressively throughout. The IA report was damning. Rodriguez had violated multiple department policies, unprofessional conduct with racist language, abuse of power through unlawful detention, excessive force against an unarmed citizen, clear racial discrimination, and dishonesty during the investigation. The recommendation was immediate termination. The disciplinary board, led by Chief Thompson, reviewed everything: the report, video evidence, witness statements. Marcus submitted a written statement instead of appearing, describing not just the incident, but emphasizing how officers like Rodriguez destroy community trust and don't deserve to wear the badge. Rodriguez showed up with his lawyer, unable to deny what the video clearly showed. He kept apologizing, but it was obviously fear-driven. His attorney tried arguing he was young and inexperienced, making a stressed mistake, though he'd created that stress himself. The board reviewed everything carefully. They weighed the severity of the violations: excessive force, abuse of authority, discriminatory conduct, and dishonesty. The video evidence was crystal clear, and the fact that the victim was a federal agent and the chief's close friend made decisive punishment essential for department credibility. Chief Thompson, leading the board, was firm and uncompromising. He made it crystal clear that Rodriguez's behavior was completely unacceptable and had zero place in the Riverside Police Department. The board reached their final decision. Officer Tyler Rodriguez's actions were serious violations of department ethics and policy. His excessive force, blatant power abuse, and racial bias proved he was unfit to serve as a police officer. The resolution was announced. Officer Tyler Rodriguez is terminated from the Riverside Police Department, effective immediately. Rodriguez sat there, face drained white, completely destroyed. He'd lost everything: his job, career, reputation. Terror and despair filled his eyes. He had nothing left to say. His pathetic, fake apologies meant nothing. Chief Thompson spoke privately with Marcus after the decision. He expressed relief that justice was served and his commitment to cleaning house, ensuring officers like Rodriguez had no place in his department. Marcus thanked Rob for handling everything so quickly and with integrity. The Riverside Police Department issued a brief press release announcing Rodriguez's termination following an internal investigation into serious misconduct. The release didn't detail the FBI agent incident to protect privacy, but emphasized the department's commitment to the highest ethical standards. While not national news, within law enforcement circles, the story of the young Riverside officer who aimed a gun at a black FBI agent out of pure prejudice and got immediately fired became a stark warning. For Rodriguez, firing was just the beginning. He lost his job, pension, and ability to work in any other law enforcement agency. He also faced a potential civil lawsuit from Marcus, though as a federal officer, Marcus might choose not to pursue it to avoid complications. For Agent Marcus Williams, the experience was a painful reminder that prejudice and power abuse persist, even in his hometown. Being treated like a criminal purely because of his skin color, having a weapon aimed at him without cause, was deeply traumatic. However, staying calm, effectively using his resources by calling Chief Thompson, and seeing the perpetrator held accountable immediately gave him satisfaction and justice. He stood up not just for himself, but for anyone else who might face similar treatment without the means to defend themselves. Do you think Rodriguez's immediate termination was fair? What needs to happen to prevent biased, abusive officers like Rodriguez from entering police forces? Share your thoughts in the comments.